Metal Valley Installation, Part 1. Step 1. Once your valley is prepped and ready to shingle, the first thing you're going to want to do is put on the drip edge. So, for your first piece, start by clipping your valley portion first. Here, you want to always start your valley with a diagonal cut, which will provide the bottom of the valley where the drip edge overlaps each other with a few inches of metal. This is to provide as much protection as possible with arguably the most vulnerable spot in a valley. Now you want to work the bottom lip. Here you will leave a 1/4 inch or so pushing out so that it extends towards the opposite side of the valley. You might not see this portion from the roof, so it's an easy mistake to make, but if you're on the ground and this little extra tab isn't accounted for, there will be an exposure between the drip edge, which will both look bad and be vulnerable to water. Step 2. When installing the opposing piece, you want to start by cutting an approximate length to make it easier to manage. From here you can cut your valley piece exactly like the last time. You may not need as much of an extended tab as the first piece will already have this compensation accounted for. This is a good rule of thumb for almost any kind of metal work. First piece has more than enough so that the second piece can focus on providing a nice clean cut for the finished look. Once you have your valley end cut, set it where it needs to go, then cut the opposite end. Step 3. This will be the most common drip edge installation aspect, which is cutting around corners. As you'll see in the video, I want the bottom to have a small portion snipped and bending over to the other side. I know I bend down the top as well with that small excess, but that's not important. That's just what I did in this scenario. Now when you place the gable or vertical piece, you can just butt it up flush and it will have a nice look to it from the ground. Step 4. Now comes the fun part, especially on a windy day like this. The metal valleys we're putting on this job are called V valleys because that is their shape. You can also get W valleys, which are a little higher end and have that extra bend in the center to help divert water for even longer protection, but that's usually reserved for 50+ year products such as certain shingles and metal systems. When it comes to handling metal, especially the thinner gauge stuff such as this, I find the best way to transport it is to hang onto it from one side only. This allows the weight of the metal to hang loose and prevents it buckling against itself. Once you get it where it needs to go, score it on the bottom. Flip it over, then make your cut. Ideally, you will have plenty of material and can extend it all the way so that your cut goes across the full length of the sheet. As long as you have metal where the water flows, you should be fine. The purpose is to prolong the life of the center of the valley as it gets the most water and deteriorates the quickest. Step 5. Now that the drip edge is on, we are ready to start shingling. And of course, before that, the first thing we do is put it on the appropriately named starter. There's a couple different guides or directions you can take when placing the overhang. You can either go 1/2 inch, 1 knuckle, or halfway to the tar line. Any of these guides will provide the desired outcome. Make sure to place the starter all the way over so you can cut it to length after, as opposed to running short, which would create hazards. These starters are just a little shorter than the shingles, which means depending on how long of a run you will have, picked where to place it. In this instance, it is not a very long run, so I'm not concerned about my starters catching up to my shingles seam-wise. Therefore, I can get started on my staircase right away. Same rules apply for the nail placement. I can basically just proceed with the same nail pattern as the shingles, since at this moment we will have a very standard stagger. A little bit about my approach or technique. I have a shingling style I like to call all or nothing approach. Essentially, I try to push my way forward shingling by focusing only on what is exactly in front of me. So for example, when I nail the drip edge, I only nail as far as the starter will be going. When I put the starter on, I only nail as far as my shingles will be going. This is a very adaptable installation style as it allows you to overcome obstacles such as rain, frost, etc. It is also especially useful when installing around technical parts of the roof. Another utility of this style would be it is an effective way to install with numerous people. Someone will need to take point, which is essentially what I'm doing here. I'm the most technically advanced roofer on site, so it should be me carving the way for the others. That is why I'm focused on building the stairs up the valley and then repeating that process on the other side. So that's pretty much it to putting on a V metal valley. I was doing an open cut valley, 2 inches on each side in this video, but you can do your no cut valleys or even just shingle it right up into the closed cut, but for practical and aesthetic purposes, I think the open cut is fine. Though you may want to widen the bottom on longer runs to prevent water launching into the corners. I'll dive into more valley tutorials. The rest of the footage here I just did like I explained earlier, which is prep the other side, the other main face, and that's it.